Tonight, remembering an inspirational trailblazer who transformed the way we understand animals. Famed primatologist and conservationist Jane Goodall dies at the age of 91.
I want to be remembered for having helped people to understand the true nature of animals, that they do matter as individuals.
Her extraordinary impact on Canadians and the world.
Unacceptable what we saw today, to have such violence in a public space.
The Montreal area coffee shop that turned into a fatal crime scene this morning. The signs the attack was not random. And what happened to that lost Beatles demo tape found in BC?
We put the tape on. We thought we'd be hearing like record noise or whatever. And it was like the Beatles were in the room with us.
How his refusal to cash in led to an extraordinary moment he says is way more valuable than money.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. She not only studied chimpanzees, she lived with them, immersing herself in their world so she could teach the world about the creatures that are the closest relatives of humans in the animal kingdom. And Jane Goodall even spoke their language.
That's good morning in chimpanzee.
Goodall died of natural causes while on a speaking tour in California. She was 91. CTV's Andrew Johnson on her legacy.
When a young British woman with a childhood love of primates but little scientific training traveled to Tanzania in 1960, she changed the way we look at chimpanzees.
When I got to Cambridge finally, they were totally horrified. I'd named the chimps instead of numbering them. I talked about them having personalities. I talked about them having minds and being able to have rational thoughts and emotions, happiness, sadness, fear. And all of these things were supposed to be attributes only of humans.
Jane Goodall also discovered chimps, like humans, used tools. She incorporated their distinct personalities and family relationships into her work.
Being out in the wild, you know, back when I dreamed of it, there was nobody doing anything like that.
As her career evolved, Goodall shifted her focus to climate advocacy after witnessing widespread habitat devastation.
To bring up generations of children around the world to be better stewards of the planet and to be more loving of each other.
Her legacy extends across the globe, including Canada. The Jane Goodall Institute's Canadian mandate includes empowering young people and partnering with First Nations.
Jane, in fact, was in Canada just 3 weeks ago, speaking to thousands and thousands of Canadians, sharing her message of hope.
Goodall married twice and had one son. In 2003, she was appointed a Dame of the British Empire, and she received the U.S. Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2025. And she worked tirelessly well into old age to reach as many people as possible.
As I travel around the world 300 days a year, I meet so many inspiring people doing amazing things. I see areas that we totally destroyed, that given time or some help, once again, nature will flourish.
Goodall never gave up trying to empower people to do their bit, as she called it, believing millions of people making small changes can make a huge difference for the planet. Omar.
Remarkable life and impact. Andrew, thank you. Even before Jane Goodall traveled to Africa to study chimpanzees, a Canadian became the first Western scientist to travel there to study animal behavior in the wild, inspired by a childhood trip.
I saw a giraffe in the Chicago Zoo. It was very tall and I was very small, and I remember thinking, this is beautiful.
And Ines Dagg went on to become a leading global authority on giraffe research. But she would later write about how she was denied tenure at a Canadian university because she was a woman. Dagg died in 2024. She was a contemporary of Goodall and eventually became known as the Jane Goodall of giraffe research.
I was expecting Mr. Ines.
Tomorrow, a new Heritage Minute will be released to recognize her achievements.
I am a Ines.
If I knew you were Miss A. Ines, I never would have invited you.
Exactly.
In other news, the fate of more than 24 belugas at an Ontario theme park is in limbo tonight after the federal government denied a request to export them to an aquarium in China. Marineland says it has few options left to care for them. Here's CTV's Heather Wright.
The last captive whales in Canada are behind these gates. Marineland, the zoo and amusement park near Niagara Falls, Ontario, had requested an export permit to send its 30 beluga whales to the Chimelong Ocean Kingdom in China, which today was denied by Ottawa as it would have prolonged the whales' captivity.
It is not okay to keep them in captivity for entertainment purposes.
In a statement, Marineland said it was profoundly disappointed in the federal government's decision, saying it condemns these magnificent animals to an uncertain future at a closed facility with no ability to pay for their continued feeding and care. Marineland has not been open in more than a year and is currently up for sale. At least 20 whales have died here since 2019. In 2021, the province said all marine mammals living here were in distress. One option for the Marineland belugas is to send them to a proposed sanctuary in Nova Scotia. But that sanctuary is not open and has yet to receive the lease and approvals necessary. Melissa Matlow with World Animal Protection is calling on politicians to do what they can to get it up and running.
I believe the sanctuary is ready to accept the whales within a year. I mean, it takes that amount of time to condition whales for transport anyway.
Today, Ontario Premier Doug Ford said the fate of the whales is now in the hands of the federal government after it denied Marineland's request.
If we want these whales to survive, we have to move them somewhere.
The fisheries minister said today she is open to other options when it comes to these whales, but there aren't any easy ones. They cannot be released into the wild, and experts say some might not be healthy enough to be moved. Heather Wright, CTV News, Niagara Falls, Ontario.
A brazen shooting in broad daylight has left one person dead and 2 others injured in Quebec. It happened near a Laval coffee shop, and as CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin reports, officials believe it's linked to organized crime.
Police tape encircled a usually busy strip mall in Laval, north of Montreal, where a Starbucks is now a crime scene.
I've never seen an active shooter. I don't even know exactly what happened still yet, but definitely scary.
At 10:34 a.m., as customers grabbed a morning coffee, shots rang out inside the shop. 3 people were hit.
At this moment, there's a man that's deceased. It's a man in his 40s, and there are 2 people that are injured right now, but we don't fear for their lives in this moment.
The investigation has been handed over to the organized crime unit, though police would not confirm multiple reports. A man nicknamed Bobby the Greek, a high-profile organized crime boss, was the target and the person killed. The injured may also have been linked.
We need to maintain pressure on organized crime.
Quebec's public security minister said for now there was no evidence any innocent bystander was caught in the crossfire. Still, the shooting has frightened many in this city.
Unacceptable what we saw today, to have such violence in a public space, in front of families, in front of people. To us, obviously, we don't want this in our city.
The police chief says fighting organized crime is a priority to ensure public security.
We're going to target strategic targets to be sure that the organized crime understand that we're going to be there, we're going to follow them.
That to make people dropping by a coffee shop feel safe. Police haven't made any arrests yet and won't say much about their investigation, only that it is ongoing. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Laval, Quebec.
The ground search has been called off for a 6-year-old boy who went missing in a mountainous part of Alberta. Darius McDougall was reported missing 11 days ago while on a family camping trip in Crow's Nest Pass. His family says he's on the autism spectrum. After an extensive search, RCMP say the investigation continues, but they do not expect to find him alive. Alberta has announced a plan to apply to the federal government's Major Projects Office for a new oil pipeline to British Columbia. Premier Danielle Smith says the province will commit $14 million, but will require the private sector to take over and run the project. That will also need the support of First Nations. However, BC's David Eby is not on board. Here's what the Premier said today.
This is a Canada project, and this is a test of whether Canada works as a country. Because if we can't build with collaboration of the federal government and between provinces, if it's everybody gets to get their products going to market except Alberta, that's not a country.
We need a major projects office at the federal level, not a major distractions office, not a major politics office, but an office that advances real shovel-ready projects that will move this economy forward in British Columbia and nationally.
And joining us now is CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Capello. So clearly, Vashi, this pipeline clash between Canada's two westernmost provinces is intensifying. Alberta wants it, BC doesn't. So what does that mean for the Prime Minister?
Well, two things really jump out at me, Omar, here. The first is around how the kumbaya period of the last 6 months has distinctly come to a close, and these provinces are definitely diametrically opposed on all of this. I think the second is that this is inherently political now for the federal government. We got a statement from the Minister of Energy's office tonight saying, you know what, this is going to go through a process. We'll consider it like any other project, but ultimately this will be one of the most punctuated political tests for Prime Minister Kearney, and he's only got about 6 weeks because Danielle Smith says she wants this project on the big list of major projects in the middle of November. Omar.
All right, Vashi, thank you. With Remembrance Day just over a month away, we are learning about some cost-cutting measures that could affect events across the country. CTV's Abigail Beeman is standing by in Ottawa with the exclusive details. And Abigail, what do we know?
Omar, in an era the Prime Minister describes as being about spend less and invest more, some are questioning whether Veterans and Remembrance Day wreaths are a worthwhile place to cut, while the Veterans Affairs Minister's office tells us this isn't about the spending review.
Laying a wreath at cenotaphs and ceremonies across the country is a long-time tradition and a way to honor veterans at Remembrance Day. In an email obtained by CTV News, the Veterans Affairs Minister writes this year's Wreaths for Parliamentarians program will have a revised format. Each MP will receive 2 wreaths, and additional costs are the responsibility of the requester for those who want more. An order form pegs the cost at $115 a wreath plus shipping costs.
This is just absolutely the worst place I could imagine to try to save money. If that's what this is about, it's just a complete lack of respect.
For MPs in rural ridings, as many as 24 wreaths are needed for legions and cenotaphs across a large geographic area. The Conservative critic for Veterans Affairs says the government should be covering the cost.
It just seems sad that the government didn't think it was important to make sure that every single legion in the country has that wreath to be able to pay their respects to our veterans on Remembrance Day. And I think it's part of a sort of a troubling pattern that we see from this government.
CTV News asked the Veterans Affairs Minister's office a number of questions. Late Wednesday, staff said in a statement this isn't about the spending review, but that changes were meant to more equitably distribute wreaths across regions, and the changes were an effort to right-size the program. But they wouldn't say what was wrong with it. Omar?
Abigail Beeman in Ottawa tonight. Abigail, thank you. Israeli troops have intercepted a flotilla heading to Gaza to deliver aid. Israel released footage of Swedish activist Greta Thunberg, who was among hundreds of people on dozens of boats. Israel says several vessels were, quote, safely stopped, and its passengers, including Thunberg, were being transferred to an Israeli port. Flotilla organizers called the interception illegal. Back here at home, as the Supreme Court of Canada decides the fate of hundreds of ostriches on a BC farm, CTV's Judy Trin has uncovered exclusive new details about a violent incident linked to protesters in the area.
We're dealing with another issue altogether.
Last week, when the RCMP descended on Universal Ostrich Farm to assist in a planned cull, the Mounties were sidetracked by a chilling 911 call.
I was so into the fear that I was going to get lit on fire.
Lois Wood says a masked man poured gasoline around her home, then threw gas on her. The 72-year-old fought back.
This is primal. This is survival. And I bit his upper arm as hard as I could. And he punched me in the face and knocked me down.
Since avian flu was detected more than 9 months ago, dozens of supporters have set up camp to protest an order by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to destroy the birds. Police say a suspect was arrested, released with conditions, and charges are pending.
We believe he was attached to the protest camp. I'm not really at liberty to speak to the specific details of the investigation, but I can confirm that part.
The farm says they helped police remove the suspect. In a statement, spokesperson Katie Pisitny says they're not a threat, but a family, a farm, and a community standing for compassion, science, and a better path forward. Meanwhile, a Conservative MP is urging the federal agriculture minister to stop the slaughter and calling for calm.
Any violence or anything off that moves from the beaten path of peaceful protest is going to result in bad things for the ostriches. Political support will dry up.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency's cull of more than 300 ostriches is on hold, waiting for the Supreme Court to decide if it will hear the case. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Coming up, how the U.S. government shutdown could impact Canadians traveling stateside. The U.S. government has shut down for the first time in 6 years, and as the blame game in Washington continues, the work of hundreds of thousands of employees has been suspended, disrupting a wide range of services. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malvin on the impact on Americans and Canadians.
Americans woke up to find tourist attractions and federal government services closed for business. The impact is being felt at airports. Essential workers like TSA agents and air traffic controllers ordered to work without pay.
We're looking for bombs, weapons, stuff like that, and you can't miss, right? So you don't want officers with added stress of how am I going to pay my bills.
Democrats are holding out, calling for the Trump administration to restore health care cuts. Republicans argue that can wait and say vote to fund the government first. As for the U.S. president, he's posting AI memes, mocking Democratic leaders who came to the White House to negotiate.
Don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face.
The vice president laughed it off as just having fun.
If you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop.
And hanging over it all is Donald Trump's threat of mass firings, getting rid of thousands of federal workers and programs during the shutdown.
We are going to have to lay people off. We're going to have to save money in some places so that essential services don't get turned off in other places.
In the 2019 shutdown, flying travelers, including Canadians, faced long waits at security checkpoints and flight delays. Wall Street shrugged off the shutdown.
What we know is that federal shutdowns always lead to economic effects. And, this could be another nudge towards recession.
Republicans need just 5 Democrats to break ranks, but there are no negotiations and no votes are planned until Friday. Omar?
Joy Malvin in Washington. Joy, thank you. Still ahead, how the minimum wage increase could end up costing consumers. Five Canadian provinces boosted their minimum wage today. And while Canadians will earn more, some may also have to pay more. CTV's Maria Saru explains.
It's peak season for this bakery. More orders to wrap, more cakes to deliver. And now pay bumps are adding pressure.
Instead of having 3 people, we compromise on 2 people and will give them extra hours.
5 provinces increased legal hourly rates Wednesday to help workers. Nova Scotia, followed by PEI, saw the highest hikes, both now set at $16.50. Co-owner Amardeep Singh estimates the increases will cost around $2,500 annually. That means prices will go up.
During the Christmas time, we will pass a little bit on our product because we need to make money.
There's still a big gap between income and what it takes to keep food on the table, according to the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives.
We have so many workers who are struggling.
The Research Institute's latest living wages report suggests $22.77 is what PEI workers need to make ends meet.
They are using every dollar that they have in their communities, in those same businesses that are employing those same workers. The impact that has in the economy, it's really important.
But some business experts say this doesn't reduce poverty.
Increasing minimum wage by 50 cents an hour has very little impact on somebody's take-home pay. So we're not really addressing the core problem. In fact, it has a negative impact on employment, in many cases.
For some workers, every dollar makes a difference.
It's a good impact for us
I'm glad I can get more money. Other grocery stores is a very expensive.
What the experts I talked to agree on is that minimum wage is just one factor in the formula. Reducing income taxes, for example, offers relief. Maria Sru, CTV News, Charlottetown.
Still ahead. How a beetle was reunited with a lost demo tape with a little help from a new friend. There are many things in life that are more valuable than money. For one Vancouver record store owner, a long-lost Beatles demo tape led him to an unforgettable meeting with his idol. Here's CTV's Shannon Patterson.
In the 44 years he's owned Neptune Records, Rob Frith has bought a lot of random music collections.
Someone came in about 10 years ago and they had a couple of reel-to-reel tapes. And it just said Beatles early demos with a question mark.
Frith figured it was likely a bootleg copy, so it sat behind the desk at Neptune for a decade until this spring when he booked a studio that had a reel-to-reel player.
We put the tape on. We thought we'd be hearing like record noise or whatever, and it was like the Beatles were in the room with us.
He posted videos of the 15-song demo on Instagram, and the story blew up.
What we determined after researching everything and having it checked by professionals, we had the actual original master tape that the Beatles recorded January 1st, 1962. It was an audition tape for Decca Records.
It didn't take long for the story to reach Sir Paul McCartney, who invited Rob and his family to Los Angeles 2 weeks ago, where the Friths would give him the tape in person.
I was one that got to hand it over to him, and it was pretty wild. Just weird, kind of being like, and here it is.
This is stuff that Paul signed for us.
While the Friths were asked not to take photos of their meeting, Sir Paul did autograph some Beatles memorabilia for them.
We are looking at my signed copy of Sgt. Pepper's.
The family had lunch with the superstar and even sat in on a rehearsal session.
The four of us got to sit there and have a full set of Paul McCartney and his band playing, and we're the only ones in the audience in the rehearsal space. It was mind-blowing.
He came up behind my mom and goes, "Hi, Vicky, how are you today?" And I thought I saw her soul exit her body right about then.
The Friths know an original Beatles demo reel could have fetched a tidy sum at auction.
And then that tape would have sat in some millionaire or billionaire's basement, never to be looked at again. And, what good is it there?
What they got was better than money.
I got paid in that I got to meet Paul McCartney. That was good enough for me.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
It's a moment they won't forget. That's a snapshot of this Wednesday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.